Welcome back to the Anthony Sain Show, everyone. I told you I had a very special guest today. My guys from Attitude MMA, Scottie, Swanger, and Trey, He's So Manley are in the building. Guys, what's going on today, man?
Not much.
Man, good.
Sweating out a little bit.
Yeah, I heard you were cutting weight, man, trying to get ready for the big fight Saturday. So what is that was the first question I want to talk to y'all about, because I was at the show last time, and there was an issue with guys who a couple guys, I believe, that were trying to cut weight. And you said because of that, they had some other difficulties going on where they couldn't fight that night.
There's issues that pop up that regular people wouldn't understand.
Yeah, I'm a regular person, so I
am too. He's the expert over it.
Right. So tell us about it, Trey. What does that mean, like when you're cutting weight like that?
Well, I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I've messed it up enough times to where like I've got it kind of figured out now. And there's just a lot of it's a really tedious process, and especially at the professional level, you know, you would think like, oh, you're a pro, you're not supposed to make weight, but a lot of the times when you're a pro, you're kind of having to cut more weight because, you know, guys are bigger. As an amateur, you know, you can get away with kind of being a lot closer to your weight class. Like there's a lot, you see a lot of like 170 guys that really should be 55ers, but they're not going to cut because they're an amateur. You get pro all of a sudden, you're going down to 55. It's a lot more competitive.
Yeah.
And then that creates issues. And it's just a tedious process between the water load, the caloric intake, and also keeping your body like okay enough to where it can withstand the weight cut, then putting the weight back on after the weigh-in, and then being able to perform in the fight. If we only had to make weight and not worry about performing, it's a little bit easier of a process. Right. But trying to balance the two, it tends to be a little bit of a balancing act, and sometimes things get away from you, and sometimes it goes the wrong way.
So you're talking about, like, when you said going from 70 to 55, you're talking about losing 15 pounds to get down to 155 is what you're saying.
So if you're already, you know, like for this one, since I'm going up to 170, I fought at 170 before, but I can wake up on that day and be 170. I could never wake up the day of weigh-ins and be 155.
Right.
Like I'd never be able to do that.
That seems like it's extremely excruciating for your body, because especially the part you said about being able to lose that much weight and then still be in fighter shape, like to go out there and compete. That seems like
absolutely. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. Like your muscles, you have to manipulate the sodium and the potassium, and you know, and then like even your brain. Like the week of, like the last few days, your brain starts lagging because your brain runs off glucose and sodium, and those are really the two main things you have to cut out, is like carbohydrates and salt. Right. And then your brain isn't firing on anything, and you know you're saying the wrong word, and you're just not even. It's not even connecting. You know.
So you're saying that, have there been times where you felt like, yeah, I'm not right, or I'm not? That's wild.
Absolutely.
Explain to him, like, if you were doing a cut to 55, like the day of, you're already depleted.
Yeah.
What do you do to get that last 6 or 7 out?
You're saying 6 or 7 pounds?
Listen, this is like after you've cut for 2 or 3 weeks. He's miserable. I've got 3 or 4 pounds to go fight day. This is a weigh-in day.
All right.
Yeah. So like first thing you're gonna do is, you know, 24 hours out from the weigh-in, you're gonna stop all water intake. Like you're done, and then from there it's like, okay, you may do a light workout or something that night just to get the sweat out and get it off. But then, you know, you get home that night, you try to do a really hot bath. A lot of guys use the sauna. The bath now has taken over in popularity because you're not just cooking your whole entire body. You can at least have your head out. But I mean, yeah.
So you're talking about boiling yourself, basically.
Yeah. Like we had it pretty dialed in with my old weight cut specialist. Like water needs to be 107 degrees. Like that's like scrotum burning. Yeah. And it's like it's just hard to even get
like
in
a
there.
bowl of lobster.
Yeah, and then you know your body is so depleted. It's like you're rolling in the sweat, and then you get out, and by the time you dry off and even get into the blankets, you're completely dry. And it's taking another 10 to 15 minutes in the bath to even get sweating again. And then you're at the point where you're just pulling from your reserves. The more muscle you have, it helps because you got more water there. But when your muscles are out of water, it starts pulling on your organs. It starts pulling from, and then your central nervous system just starts shutting down. Your kidneys start freaking out. You know, we've had some teammates have some kidney issues. Like, it's nothing to play around with. It's really dangerous and honestly really stupid, but we all do it.
Man, that sounds wild, man. If I'm ever trying to feel 5 pounds lighter, I use the Pops on Friday method. I don't know if you Oh no, you know about that one at all,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
But
So Thursday and Friday of fight week, I don't like to answer my phone because
Mm.
it always happens. I'll have a guy Thursday night. Hey man,
It's usually me.
no. I had one coming from out of town. Hey man, I fell out in the bath. Trying to cut these last few pounds and I passed out, hit my head. Got a concussion. I'm out.
good God, man,
mean-
you guys literally live a fighter's lifestyle.
And
Like
think
this.
about it. For pros, like, okay, yeah, you're making a little bit of money. Like,
Yeah.
okay. The amateurs, they're not.
Yeah, it's free.
So it's like, hey, you're going to do this to yourself and go fight for free? That's crazy.
Yeah. So why is it such an extreme difference? Like, why do they have to go 15 pounds? It just sounds like why can't somebody just come up to where you are and you fight somebody?
It's hard. So, like,
Yeah.
do you want to be fighting at 170 against a guy that walks around at 185? Or do you want to be fighting at 155 against a guy that walks around at 155? Like,
Yeah, I get what
if
you're
you can
saying.
be the bigger guy, because, you know, if he's going to fight at 155, he weighs in at 55 on Friday. What would you weigh on Saturday? Monday?
I've gotten up to like 83.
So, I mean,
God damn.
that's why you want to be called, you know,
Yeah.
you want to drop it if you can.
Yeah. So
There's no replacement for displacement. So it's like you can turbocharge a 4-cylinder, but a V8 is always going to have just more room. And that's kind of the same thing. It's like you can go in, maybe you're the smaller guy, you're fresher, you're not cutting weight, but if that other guy is big natural V8, you know, it starts to take its toll on you, especially in the grappling department. That's kind of where it really starts to shine.
yeah, that's wild stuff, man. It just gives me like more respect for how you guys even book shows, period. And I see you guys have a full card for the September 16th show at 5 p.m. at the Cannon Center. Full card. A lot of guys that I remember from the last show. You guys put on a great show last time as well, too, man. A couple highlights I remember was a gentleman who, a gentleman that came out dancing to entertain the crowd. Scottie walked up to me before the fight, seconds before the fight started, and said, "I guarantee you that guy gets his ass knocked out in 30 seconds." And it was something like that for
He
sure.
beat me by 20 seconds.
Yeah,
lasted about 10.
it was really literally a one-hitter quarter for sure. But to the fans at home, I'll say this: I came into the last show, which is my first time coming, with zero expectation, and I was absolutely blown away by the last show you guys put together. It was action-packed from beginning to end. I saw like some high school kids out there fighting, and I just thought it was really amazing stuff, man. It was high intensity. It was a little bit like, all right, this is a lot. Like, it's a lot of to watch guys get punched in the face and things like that. It was a lot, but it was freaking awesome, man. Like, it didn't look like anything wasn't safe. You guys, for example, the guy that you said he's going to be done in 30 seconds, that guy took a punch, and he didn't respond like a fighter. It didn't look like he knew what he was doing. Right. So the ref immediately jumped in and was like, all right, man. You know,
full disclosure on that fight. I did not want that fight to happen.
Yeah.
He actually talked to his opponent because I told him, I was like, I'm not booking. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
They talked and they got that together. I was like, if y'all are going to do it, I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
That's if you show up, great. If not, whatever.
Yeah.
I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. The ref stepped in immediately, and that's what let me know. Okay, these guys really value safety. So I was like, yeah, it was a dope night, man. I can't remember all the fights. I remember my man, the Vanilla Gorilla. If I'm not mistaken, he put on the show. It was a really good show for sure, guys. So I really appreciate you guys coming back to promote this one. Question for you, Trey. You have a dope nickname. Trey, he's so manly.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to the nickname for sure. You're taking on Donovan Beard, the highlight reel Donovan Beard. What should we expect in that match against Donovan Beard on the 16th?
It's going to be a highlight reel one way or the other, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of what me and him both do. So, you know, he is the bigger guy, speaking of the replacement for displacement, but I have fought bigger guys literally ever since I was an amateur. So I'm not really too worried about that. I train with a lot of bigger guys. When I was at American Top Team, I trained with everybody was bigger than me, minus my buddy Caleb. Shout out Caleb.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, it's going to be a fun one for sure. You know?
I'm gonna tell you what else surprised me, man. Like I said, I was totally new. This is my first. I lost my virginity to MMA fighting at you guys show. So something that really kind of like blew me away was the fact that this is like high impact, intense competition you guys have. And then like, because to me it was more intense than boxing is to me. Because boxing looks like these days with boxing, guys aren't even really even getting many punches in. You know what I mean? It's a totally different sport. But what you guys are doing looks a lot more competitive. As soon as the fights were over, there was zero animosity. No guys like I was like, how do you master that? How do you master your emotions in the ring?
That's something that I've worked on for a long time, really. My second amateur fight, I fought one of my best friends. I literally just got done playing 18 with him today. We both went to school together since we were in kindergarten, and we both wanted to fight on the same card, and they didn't have space for both of us to have a fight. So, the matchmaker back then, he did some shenanigans, called me, told me, yeah, dude, he said he's down to fight you. That's the only way I can get on the card. Did the same thing to him. Of course, he hadn't talked to either one of us, and we were both like, damn, he said he'd fight me? All right, well, I guess I will. And then the next thing you know, we were both fighting. And but for that one, I really let my emotions get away from me. Like, our whole entire high school showed up. It was crazy. It was
started thinking about stuff that happened in school.
And just like the lights and everything. Like, my first fight was in like Lexington, Tennessee, and there was literally chickens outside. It was in an armory. Like, the speaker was broke, and you couldn't even hear the walkout songs. Like, it was terrible. And then the second fight, you walk out, and they're airing it on like CSS Sports, and there was tons of lights and cameras, and I was like, oh shit. And it got to me. And I went in there, and then I knocked my first guy out in like 40 seconds. And so then I'm fighting him, and I'm like, I'm going to do the same thing. And then all of a sudden that 2-minute mark came around, and I was like, oh shit. Like, I actually have to still fight, And I definitely let my emotions get away from me. And I've worked on that ever since. Like, and it's really just focusing on the things that you can control, right? You can't give in to like, especially a lot of guys, you see them giving into the, I got to get them back. I got to get them back. They get hit with something clean. They don't make an adjustment. They just immediately think, I got to get them right back. I got to get them back. And then a lot of the times that opens them up. They drop their hands. They come in too hard. They're not even setting anything up. They just run right at them. And they end up running into something worse than what they got caught with. So just keeping those things in check and remembering, like, sticking to your game plan and staying tight, not staying like super tense and just trying to crack them with everything, and just let your game plan work, let your setups work, and just literally, I used to literally have a Sharpie, and I would write it on my wrist, because like the glove covers everything else, but I would write it really high on like the inside and the outside of my hands. I would just write a C on both sides just to tell myself to stay calm. And if I could see it out of the corner of my eye through my guard, I'd always just and just breathe and try to stay chilled out.
Yeah, that's some wild stuff, man. Scott, this question for you. You are the booking manager for the organization, for Attitude MMA. Question I have for you. Man, I was sitting at the house one day just like randomly watching TV, right? And this show comes on, and I think I was watching like A&E or something, but it's like literally little kids doing MMA, right? And I was like, okay, I'll ask Scottie about the next time I see him. So what are your thoughts on, I mean, when I say little kids, but I mean like 7, 8-year-old kids.
They wanted to come film us. We had an organization that had kids MMA. It's not like they do it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. I noticed that part, yeah.
There's no headshots. It's all body shots. They're padded up. But, I mean, it really does prepare you for the next level. Like, Ethan Birmingham was like the champ of that, the kids organization.
Okay.
He's a multi-promotion champ as an amateur. He's like 3-0 or 4-0 as a pro right now. But I mean, that's where these kids are starting now. Like, you play basketball when you're 4 or 5 years old.
That's his point. He was like in every other sport, if you're going to be good at it, they have minor leagues, they have little kid leagues, and that's common.
Pee-wees.
So for this, it has to be, you have to have it as well. And I instantly was like, yeah, I get that. You know what I mean? It's not the path I want my particular son to be on.
Well,
but
I mean, you think like
I get it though. Yeah,
they're not getting knocked out. There's no shots to the head. I mean, it looks weird. It's a bunch of body shots. But they're getting the ring time. So okay, now I'm 18. Yeah, I can get in a real fight. I've been here before. This isn't new. Because more times than not, you see guys making their debut. They hit the curtain and their face changes. It's like, whoa, there's people. This is weird. Like this isn't like a practice. This is different. And I've seen it happen hundreds of times. And
when I was watching the show, I saw like little kids may cry or whatever, but the emotion part we were talking about where you're not ready to fight, it is like after the fight is over, the kids were showing sportsmanship towards each other. I was like, man, how? Like, you know what I mean? And I thought I was super intrigued by that whole thing. But with that being said, Trey, when did you get started? What was your path to where you are now?
I actually started boxing when I was 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
And I had my first boxing match when I was 8, and it was not as safe as that. There was no like.
There were probably headshots.
Yeah. We were like, I dropped the kid like 3 times. And I did a lot of those when I was a kid, and then my mom found out, and that was a big no-no because she's got 2 of her brothers were boxers, and one of them was in the Olympics in the 60s, and my dad boxed in the Navy. She just didn't like the idea of it. So
like 8 running the streets, underground boxing.
Yeah, that was Actually, I told that whole story on the and off the bench, and then I got told by somebody I wasn't allowed to talk about that anymore. Apparently, it's like people did jail time over that. But yeah, it was cool. I had a lot of fights when I was a kid.
Scottie, looking at the card, like I said, it's an action-packed card you guys got going on. What are some of the highlights, some of the matches you think that people should be tuned in to watch?
So it's interesting, right? So I had Jarius Gill booked against Paul Kimball. I wanted that fight.
Jarius fought last time, right?
Yeah, he knocked that dude out in like 10 seconds.
Okay, I remember this.
So he took a short notice fight against Danny Barlow, who is our 170 champ. They fought on a different promotion. And I'm not, like, if I tell you I want to fight for you and you take a short notice fight against, one of the top guys in the area, I'm not taking that away. Like, I wanted him. So he lost that fight. He's still going to fight. We're good. It's for the 170 title. I've got a 170 right here. Well, who says, if he wins, he doesn't want a 170 title shot.
Yeah.
So we again, I don't know that that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. We got 3 amateur title fights, 155, 155. I got 145. I've got 2 number 1 contender fights at 85 and heavyweight. Jared Travis at 85 is his teammate. I'd like to see him get a shot at a belt if he can get a win here. Parker Rye is a heavyweight who, he's probably 1 fight away from a heavyweight title fight. We got kids wrestling again.
Yeah, I see that.
Always fun.
I see that.
Your boy Stewie coming back.
Yeah, Stewie's coming
Jeremy
back.
Stewart.
That's exciting.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely, I got to be here, man, for sure. Trey, something that you do, you're one of the trainers for Memphis Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. What's that like, being able to have people who are your students and just teaching them the craft?
I mean, it's cool. I like it. I've actually grown to like it because I never really. I've always found myself ending up in a coaching position without ever really wanting to be. My first gym I was with, there was like a little bit of a split. Guys went separate ways, and it kind of left me because I'm a little bit too loyal, I think.
Right.
And it left me as just kind of like, all right, well, I guess I'll kind of teach these guys. And then the same exact thing ended up at the gym I was at after that, right? And we all actually just kind of moved, and then I ended up doing the same thing there. And that was a big part of me going to American Top Team, was just because I was like, I don't want to be in control. I want to just literally get on a schedule, be a part of a team, right? And I was like, that's what professional athletes do. Like, football players are a part of a team. Everything's scheduled for them. Same with basketball. And I was like, I'm looking for that. And I had, 4 years of that down there. And when I came back, it was more so just what I learned was a little bit further ahead of the things that were in place. And I just have a little bit of a way of articulating it, I guess. Like, some guys are amazing fighters, but maybe they might not be the best at explaining something to someone,
right,
like helping it click. And I think I do have a little bit of a talent in that area, just helping things click with guys. And so I just basically found myself kind of being tasked with it. Like, hey, will you get some of these guys up to speed? Will you teach them what you know? And then that took over for me, actually ended up like leading the program. And, at first I used to tell everyone, I was like, look, I don't give a shit if you get better. Or, like, I don't care if you win fights. I don't give a damn. Don't even call me coach. I'm not your coach. I just need to make you good enough to where I'm not whooping your ass every second of the day. Like, I need you to get better to help me get better.
Right.
And it was like really selfish at the beginning of it.
Right.
And then, you start like seeing guys that didn't even really know how to throw a punch, and, they're going out there and it's like all of a sudden they're knocking guys out with the stuff that I showed them. Like, one of the first guys he was the one and only guy that showed up to my very first class I taught. It was Keith Dowell. And Keith, his striking was absolutely terrible, and I will say that on record and to his face. And he will say that his striking was abysmal. And literally after working with me for like a month or two, like, he goes out there and knocks his next dude out with our warm up, like what we were doing for a warm up drill. And you know, I was just like, okay. And then like start getting invested. You see T knocking guys out with the setups I showed him. Trevor, same thing. And I was like, okay, this is like, we're actually onto something. Then I find myself like super invested in them. Then I'm actually trying to make them better. And I found myself kind of caring, which is weird for me. But I was like actually giving a shit about them. And I was like,
changing you, man.
Yeah. And then especially you go through the losses with them too. And it's different when you're like a teammate and you're just kind of like, you know, he'll be fine. I'll be back in the gym. And then my mentality switched from like, I hope he's not too banged up so he can get back and help me train.
Right.
To like, now I'm seeing these guys win and lose. I'm seeing, because they're all my friends too. So I'm seeing how they're, like how it affects their mental side, how their life is affected, how it affects their relationships. And like, I am literally a part of that at this point. And I'm like, all right, I'm a little bit too invested now. So I'm kind of stuck with it.
Look at that, man. They warmed up their cold heart.
They did. They warmed it up a little bit.
Man, you were talking about the team aspect. Like I'm really like blown away by all this because like I said, I didn't know anything about MMA before I went to you guys' show, and now I've got like I'm super excited about all this. You know, I can't wait to go. The team aspect, that whole thing kind of blew me away too because I'm like, okay, I didn't know it was this big of a culture here in the city of Memphis where you've got all these different teams, these different organizations that are teaching people where you can go and learn, and then you guys are competing against each other. It seems like there's a certain level of camaraderie. It didn't seem like there's you may tell me something totally different, but it seems like there's a lot of respect between the different teams in the city of Memphis as well.
Yeah, absolutely there is. I mean, and I think we're all on the same page, and it is an unfortunate page. It's like we're all on the same page, and we're just on different lines of the same page. And like, I know if you asked every single person, we would all love like all the different teams. We would love to be under one roof. We would all love to be able, and we do try to like go back and forth and train with, you know, each teams and kind of show love in different areas. But sometimes, you know, without going into a lot of detail, like, you know, I know back in the day there was a lot of ego stuff in the way, and then, you know, some of the ego drops, but then there's a little bit of Memphis is still a small pie, right, and everybody wants the biggest piece, unfortunately. And that, I think, is the main thing that gets in the way of everyone coming together all the time. But I do think we do a good job of, like, you know, we'll go out there and compete, we'll shake hands, we'll be friends after. Sometimes it goes for them, sometimes it goes for us. You know, it's never really any bad blood. It's just like, all right, you know, we'll see y'all next week.
You got to think, too. So if they're all under one roof, then we're bringing guys from out of town to fight them.
Yeah.
Say the out-of-town guy wins.
Yeah.
All the time. Well, now we're just bringing guys in to beat Memphis.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Yes, they would all like to train together, I think. But also, they need fights, man. Like, these amateurs, like, it's hard to bring guys there from out of town to fight amateurs. There's no tape on some of these guys. So with everybody being separated, it's still kind of, you can make fights easier for these guys.
Yeah. What do you think the next level is for local MMA, for the fights that you have? Like, what does the next level look like?
Man, same thing as last time, man. We want to get these guys on the map, you know, Atlanta, Memphis, Arkansas, Mississippi. We want to get these guys fights and then go. I'm glad you asked that. Little plug. Tonight, our 155 champ, AJ Cunningham, Arkansas kid, trains for Law School MMA, is fighting on Dana White Contender Series. If you don't know what that is, he brings Dana White, UFC brings guys out to fight. Basically, it's an empty arena. You impress, you get a contract. So our 55 champ is there tonight. He's the second fight. So
check that out, man.
Dude, that's so dope.
A dog.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, Danny Barlow, our 170 champ, Dana White Contender Series, fighting for a contract. His teammate, Rambo Forrest, Dana White Contender Series, fighting for a contract. So Memphis is getting looks.
That's
what we want. Like we told you last time. Come get this belt and go. We want to see you guys on the big screen. Like, dude, we love having the guys here. Love it. It's so much fun. Put butts in seats. It's great.
Yeah.
Seeing the guys on TV, dude, Memphis made it. Yep. Like, it's bigger than just one person.
Yeah, it was
and
a
the
guy.
guys know that. They know that. They know, like, man, I got the city on my back.
I think it was the Vanilla Gorilla that they interviewed him, and he was talking about. I think he was talking about what you were talking about, the Dana White thing, wasn't he? Yeah, because then he could have shot it. Somebody was saying something.
There was
about,
a dude. Okay, there was a guy he was going to fight that was getting a look. As a matter of fact, that guy that he was training with for T, just got a contract. He won last week on Contender Series.
And for anybody, I'm telling you, man, when you come out here, like my expectation, I've been to different things in the city, whether it be wrestling or boxing, whatever. But you guys, this was like TV presentation, man. You guys had ring girls, cameras everywhere. It was live streaming. You guys had announcers on the side. I was like, man, this shit legit.
Well, you've been to shows like he's talking about, where there's like chickens running around. We try to like.
Nah, this wasn't that at all, man.
It takes time to kind of like. We like what this show does. We don't like that. Like, you got to kind of find what works. We've kind of found like that the happy middle where the fighters are happy, the production is good, and that's really all we want, man. Like, we want when these guys have highlight reels, it looks good to get on out.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm a big advocate for the city. People who watch this show, they say they like my show because I introduced them to things going on that they didn't know were going on. I didn't know what you guys were doing. I knew it was happening, but I didn't know it was you guys. Like I said, it's a gem, man. I'm not gonna say it's a hidden gem because we've definitely uncovered it. You know what I mean? For sure. Love what you guys are doing, man. For sure. Kenny, you got some stuff for him. I know you big into the MMA community as well, man.
Yeah, Trey. Like, are you from Memphis?
Yeah.
I was assuming you were.
Yeah, born and raised, and then I had that little 4-year stint down in Coconut Creek, and then came right back, and it's home, man.
What
represent?
What was your start? Like, what did you see a fight, or you said you started boxing at 8 years old?
Yeah,
but
I boxed from like 8 to 12, and when my mom kind of nixed it, it was back before all this like science stuff came out. My mom was just like, "No, you're better off in a football helmet, throwing your body at people at 100 miles an hour." So. Played football for a long time, and then I actually I was in a little trouble in my teen years. When I was 17, I was on house arrest, and every scholarship that I had just immediately went away. And I was like, okay, well, I want to do something. And I had always, even for the last 2 years that I was playing football, like one of my best friends, he had got into MMA, and I had been to some of his fights, and I was like, man, I want to do this so bad. I even wanted to train with him, but I really couldn't because I was like, I don't want to get hurt and, football and whatever. So after that kind of went away, I was like, okay, let me think. There was one school that still was like, we'll still work with you on something. And I just kind of did the math, and I was like, there's 3 short white guys in the NFL, and they all play for Bill Belichick. And they weren't on house arrest as a kid. They weren't like, they're probably good citizens. Right. So I was like, maybe I should give this fighting thing a go. And I was like, I'm probably not going to go pro playing football, but I can definitely go. Because I was watching some of the local pros at the time fight. And I was like, you give me 6 months and I can hang with that guy. Yeah. You give me a year and I might go toe-to-toe with him. You give me 2 years and I can beat that dude's ass. And sure enough, within that 2 years, I was sparring with those same guys, and it went exactly what I said. So I was like, all right, this is the ticket. This is what we're doing.
That's what I'm talking about for sure. Final question for you. You were speaking about how your mom was saying she'd rather see you play football. There's always been this stigma about MMA that it's dangerous and all these type of things. What do you say to that? Because you were speaking, it sounds like what you're saying is you think this is less dangerous than playing in the NFL. We know about the NFL head injuries and concussions, all those type of things. Like I said, I was impressed about how, even though it was a culture shock to me to see it, it looked safe still. Yeah. So what do you say to that for people who say that it's not a safe sport?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not a safe sport at all. Like if you're doing the kid stuff and you're throwing body shots, but I mean, think about it. There's 2 different ways that you can get separated from consciousness in there. You can either get knocked out or you can get choked out. Every limb on your body is always at a possibility to be broken. You have the weight cut, which is a thing. I mean, literally, me cutting weight, I've been on the brink of actual literal death and had to pull out of fights because I didn't do it right. And I've tore my lung like 3 times just from that. The kidney issues that you see people have. I mean, it is not a safe sport by any means, but that says something about the people that are willing to do it and the people that are not just willing to do it once. Because I don't know what the percentage is, but there's probably a lot of guys out there that, man, they probably hit up Scottie for fights or they, call their buddy and agree to fight. But there's a lot of people that will make that walk once, but how many people are going to go out there and do it 20 or 30 times over the span of their career? And it's like, it's not safe. There's a lot of risk in this. I mean, there really is. But is it worth it to you? I know it's worth it to me.
Yeah.
You know, so it says something about the guys that are just willing to put that risk on the line over and over and over.
Says they're hard-headed.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it says we're dumb.
Yeah.
You think it's safer than boxing?
Do I think it's safer than boxing? In certain ways. Like in boxing, you're not going to snap your leg, right? And we've seen guys like get kicked and whatever, or they throw a kick and their leg breaks. You're probably not going to break your arm in boxing either. Okay, you break a hand. I've done that in 2 or 3 fights. Now, the amount of punches that you're going to take over your career in boxing, like I remember I fought my last 3 fights. I got hit a total, like of connected shots to the face, I got hit a total of 5 times in 3 fights. And there's a lot of guys, you know, they can go in there and wrestle and not even get hit once. So, you know, I think there's one sure thing about boxing. You're going to get fucking hit in the head.
Yeah.
You're going to. That's a guarantee.
Then they'll give you 10 seconds to get up.
Yeah.
Do it
Yeah,
again.
you get 10 seconds to get up. So I do think that the head trauma aspect is definitely more prevalent in boxing. But then again, it's like, what's to say that you don't get hit? Let's say you're a wrestler and you don't get hit for, you know, 3 fights in a row because you wrestled guys, but then you go in there and get shin kicked in the dome in your next one. Right. So it is a dangerous thing, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah, man. I've got a ton of respect for you guys. I became an instant fan that night. Me and the crew, we'll be back again. Like it was, I mean, I'm hooked. I'm in for sure. And you guys need to do the same thing, man. I'm telling you. Saturday, September 16th, 5 p.m. at the Cannon Center. Y'all know where it is. Come check it out. Full card, man. We're going to put the card up on the screen so you guys can see it. But my man, Trey Manley, he's so manly, is taking on Donovan Beard in the co-main event. Saturday, September 16th. Be there, man. I'm telling you. I thought I could fight till I saw these folks who can fight for real. So I realized then I can't do shit. But yeah, y'all go check it out, man. My guy, Scottie Swanger. My man, Trey Manley, going to be in the building. Come check him out.